All right, let's dive in. Today, we are breaking down the absolute game-changing framework from the book Crucial Conversations. This is all about how to handle those super stressful, high-stakes talks that, can either build or totally break our relationships and our careers. Yeah, you know the feeling, that knot that just forms in the pit of your stomach. You know you have to talk about something big, something where the outcome really, really matters. Maybe it's something personal, a conflict that's just been bubbling under the surface for weeks. Or maybe it's something that seems so small, like a few inches of property, that just blows up into this massive deal. These are the exact moments where we so often get things completely and totally wrong. And today, we're going to figure out why. So first up, let's dissect the anatomy of these conversational crises. Why do we fail so badly at them? It turns out there's a very specific recipe for disaster at play here. So a conversation turns crucial when you have this perfect storm of three things happening at once. One, the stakes are high, meaning the outcome is going to have a real impact on your life. Two, opinions vary, you just don't see eye to eye. And three, emotions are running strong, which means things can get, they can get intense fast. And here is the wild part, the biology behind it all. When we feel threatened in one of these conversations, our body flips into fight or flight mode. Adrenaline just floods our system, and blood literally rushes away from the complex, rational parts of our brain to our muscles. We actually become dumber, left with what the authors call our monkey brain. Isn't that crazy? We're at our absolute worst when it matters the most. So what happens when our monkey brains are running the show? Well, we usually fall into one of two traps. The book calls this the sucker's choice, and it's this false belief that we only have two equally terrible options. We tend to go down one of two roads, right? Silence or violence. Silence is when we use sarcasm or we just avoid the topic altogether. And violence is the opposite. We try to control the conversation, we label people, or we just go on the attack. The problem is, both of these paths are perfectly designed to make sure nothing actually gets solved. And the book uses this brilliant Woody Allen quote to humorously frame this whole dilemma. It really feels like we're stuck choosing between two awful outcomes. But what if it's not true? What if it's a false choice? Well, there is another path. The authors give us this powerful alternative: dialogue. This is the third option, the one that breaks us out of that sucker's choice. Now, dialogue isn't just about talking. It's about creating what they call a shared pool of meaning. Think of it like this. It's a space where everyone feels safe enough to put their real ideas on the table, even the controversial ones. And what happens is the collective pool of knowledge becomes way smarter than any one person, which leads to way better decisions and, crucially, real buy-in from everyone. Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually do it? Especially when our monkey brain is screaming at us to either run away or fight. Well, let's get into the practical three-step toolkit. The roadmap here is simple, but it is so powerful. First, you have to master your own story. Second, you make the conversation safe for everyone. And third, you learn how to state your path in a way that people can actually hear. So, step one, and this is probably the most important part. Before you say a single word to anyone else, the real work has to happen inside your own head. It's all about looking at and challenging the stories we tell ourselves, the ones that are fueling all those negative emotions. The book points out three really common and destructive stories. There's the victim story. It's not my fault. Then there's the villain story. This is all your fault. And finally, the helpless story. Well, there's nothing I can do about it. We use these stories to justify our own bad behavior, and spotting them is the first step to getting back in control. Okay, once you've got your own head on straight, the next job is to create safety. And this is non-negotiable. People will not contribute to that pool of meaning if they feel attacked or threatened. The second safety vanishes, dialogue is over. So to build that safety, you need two key ingredients: mutual purpose and mutual respect. People have to believe that you actually care about their goals too, and they have to feel that you respect them as a person, even if you disagree. If either of these is at risk, you literally have to stop talking about the topic and work to rebuild safety first. All right, it's safe, your story is under control, now it's finally time to speak. But how? The book gives us this amazing 5-step acronym, STATE, that helps you share your point of view persuasively, not abrasively. Here's how it works. You share your facts first, they're the least controversial part. Then you tell your story, which is your interpretation of those facts. Then, and this is key, you ask for their side of the story. You talk tentatively, using phrases like, I was starting to wonder if. And finally, you encourage testing. You make it clear you want them to challenge your ideas. It's this incredible blend of confidence and humility. And that brings us to our final section, finishing strong. Because look, a great, heartfelt conversation is basically useless if it doesn't lead to any real action. So the final step is making sure everyone is crystal clear on what happens next. To make sure you actually move from talk to results, you've got to nail down the specifics. Who is going to do what? What exactly needs to be done? By when does it need to be finished? And how are we all going to follow up to make sure it gets done? Answering these 4 questions just eliminates all the ambiguity and creates real accountability. I love this quote, which is right in the book's foreword. It just drives the whole point home, right? Understanding all these ideas is one thing, but the real magic, the real value, happens when you actually go out and do it. So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question. Think about that one tough conversation that you've been putting off, or maybe handling really poorly. Now that you have these tools, what crucial conversation are you going to change starting today?